What is up YouTube, Marcel here, and today I'm gonna teach you how to master the wets, and let's get right into it. So first of all, taking away, of course, there will be less grip, means more wheel spin, less traction, you will have more snaps on the throttle, and so on and so on. So it will be trickier to drive. You all know that, especially without assists. And one thing you can already do is go into the setup page. I have the time trial world record setup here. You have higher wings. Usually a bit more rear aero will make it easier for you. The rest is more or less the same. You also want a kind of softer suspension and anti-roll bar. You can also increase the rear ride height, which also stabilizes the rear. And always have the brake bias on 50%. That's kind of always the way to go. Makes it much easier to drive just because you lock up less. That's another thing. You lock up easier because you have, first of all, less speed. Then there's more friction between, well, what's going on, because the water and you are braking heavily into corners whilst turning and everything gets slippery, then you lock up. Let's get first of all into accelerating. Let's get into it. Yo, sorry for the little interruption, but if you enjoy these videos and if they're helpful, please, it would mean so much to me to make this community grow. So hit the subscribe, hit the like button, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any more tips and tricks and whatever videos and challenges that are coming up in the future. I will also carry on with that for the next new game, F1 2022. So yeah, I would highly appreciate that. And now we will continue with the video. Thank you. So with the setup, we've covered it off a tiny bit. I will go into more detail on the setup guide that I'm gonna bring out. You remember on the traction control where I said 50% is kind of how you start accelerating out of corners. In the wets, we're gonna do it like this. We're going to around this here, like 30 to 40%, something in between there, out of every single corner more or less. In hairpins maybe a bit slower, maybe 25 or 20%, and then to this 30, 40. But you don't just go from there to 100. No, this time it's not just from this to quickly go to 100. This time it's from 30 or 40 to 50. Then you go to around 80. And from there on you have this like faster progression to 100. Because then usually you build up grip. And as soon as you feel the grip, you go full throttle. And this is how you do it. And we are going to show that quickly. One thing to take away as well. Short shifts can make you spin in the wets because the gear shifts, they make the car a bit looser because there's weight transfer. Look there, you can see that. We shifted up and we spun. So sometimes holding a gear a bit longer until you can straighten up the steering wheel will make it easier for you. Now, talking about the steering, when accelerating, of course, you have to open the steering wheel way smoother, but you also steer usually less than in the dry, so it's not an issue. You can see we are really smooth here. And we don't have any troubles. In high-speed corners like this one here, you lift a bit, but then look at the throttle now. We have this little bit of progression. And here you can see it perfectly. I didn't even look at it, but it should be exactly what I said with this like 30%-ish, 40%-ish, then 50, then to 80, and from there on the progression is quicker. You have to be really gentle, careful, and patient, and you have to develop a feeling for that. Like I said, you can also use the telemetry and put it in the middle of your screen if it helps you. But it's kind of the same out of every single corner. Also, it depends from corner angle to angle, but the same principle applies a bit quicker or slower. Remember that. Then, next up, the steering, which is important also for traction, and then we are already covering off the braking. So for steering, if I turn in, like normally, you can see we are missing the apex. If I go back now and we turn in early, and that is really for every single corner, you have to turn in earlier than you think every single time. Every single lap, every single corner earlier than you would expect it to. Turn in, we make the apex, turn in, we make the apex, turn in, we make the apex, open up the steering wheel, and easy. High curbs I would avoid, you can still hit them, but be careful. And exit curbs, always be really gentle on them. These ones here you don't really have to worry because you are already full throttle. As long as you're full throttle, usually nothing happens. But you have to go on them with full throttle. If you go, for example, on this one here, okay, there's also the sausage curve, but if we're not full throttle, let me show you turn 4 is the best example, then you need to be more careful. Let's see, turn 4, when I accelerate on the curb. Because we're definitely not gonna be full throttle. You can see this, we are getting more wheel spin. If I would go into that curb with full throttle, it wouldn't really matter. Same in left field. One more corner to show you. This is Brooklands. We turn in earlier than we think, Prepare for the exit. Now we go onto the exit curb. And if we accelerate too aggressive and we are not full throttle, we spin, okay? So these are the things that you have to look out for. 30 to 40, 50, 80, and then slow progression to 100. Be careful of exit curbs. Turn in smooth and open up the steering wheel even smoother than before in the dry. And be careful with short shifts. You can still use them, they're still really beneficial, but you should do it. You will find it out for each track and every corner yourself, but it can spin you, so always be careful with that. Next up is the braking. The braking, you can go to 100%, I will show you that, but only if you brake really straight and just for a split second. Like there I was 100%, but it doesn't really benefit you that much. I would say it's probably 90 to 95% where you can consistently brake at the beginning. So just be a bit more gentle. Still locked up there. And still trail brake into the corners until the apex. That doesn't change. It's still the same principle. The only thing that changes is you're braking softer but longer, if that makes sense. So your travel distance anyways, because there's less grip, will be longer, but you are also gonna brake longer but softer than before. So you're holding the trail brake longer when turning because there's more distance, and you're braking less, so there will be even more distance technically on the brakes because of the lack of speed. But you need to do that to go fast. You cannot just send it in. And if you brake 100%, then only if you go completely straight. And even then, be careful, because you can still lock up really quickly. Like it's just a split second where you can go 100. Like here, for example, if I go 100, you see, I can do it, but only if I go straight. And you have to then release the brakes fairly quick, so rather go for something consistent between 90 and 95, and then slowly, progressively trail brake into the corner, longer but softer. And that is already it for the braking in the wets. Also, you can still brake on corners, like on the curbs, but be also more careful there, because you might lock the rears, you might lock the fronts. If you lock the tires and you have it on 50%, depending on track to track. On this track, for example, you need it on 50. If you lock the fronts, you will see you will go straight. If you would lock the rears, your rear would like get loose and you would spin out immediately. So if it is that case, then you have to move up the brake bias by 1 or 2 clicks and see until it fixes, and until you go rather straight if you lock up, then sideways. That's already it, because that would stabilize the car, makes it a bit more balanced under braking. With braking, be gentle, don't be too aggressive, and take your time. It will take time. The wets, they are really frustrating, and they are hard to master, but there's nothing else you can do aside from training these things. So turn in earlier and smoother, like you don't have to turn as much. Similar, like the turning and braking is kind of one-to-one the same. You brake and turn softer, but you start earlier with the process and you do it longer. So you're not turning more or anything just because there's less grip. You're turning even less. Like look at this. I'm turning nearly not at all, and we make the corner. We turn less, but we turn efficiently. We don't lose grip and we can open up the steering wheel quicker. So less turning but longer. Same with the braking. That's already it. Those are my tips for the wets, and I hope they help you out. Let me know how you get on with it, and I will see you in the next one, everyone. Take care. Peace.